Hello, Morgan. It's so nice to see you again. I'm really excited that we have the opportunity to chat because I have heard a lot of your story, but I know a lot of people haven't. And I'm really excited for everyone else to get to know you and for myself to get to know you a little bit better. So, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Alexis. I'm excited to be here. And Bernie's always excited to be on camera and checking everything out. So he'll probably be around and pressing buttons in the background here.
What a ham. I love that. I love the setup you have behind you. Is that for all of your learners or just for one?
Yes, yeah, I have all four of my learners using the same soundboard. One, my little senior mini American Shepherd, he mostly prefers to communicate with body language, which is great, of course, right? He has well-established modes of communication there, but he will press when he feels like that's easier or there's an urgent need like potty. For the most part, I've got two cats and a dog that use the buttons a lot throughout the day.
That's amazing. That's incredible. So I would like to know about each of your learners, but first, how did you get started? How did you hear about AIC? Who did you start with? Why did you start? What's sort of the backstory of you and your learners in AIC?
Yeah. So came across Christina Hunger at first when she initially is going viral. I think followed her blog back before even social media and was fascinated by it, but felt like she's a professional. This is what she does. This isn't relevant to me. It's interesting, but it's not relevant enough for me to give it a go. And then I saw you and Bunny, and especially the stranger paw video, and it felt much more accessible at that point. With you coming from an art background, it was like, all right, you don't have to be a speech language pathologist to know how to do this. And these buttons seem like they're going to fit better and being made for animals. So let me give it a go. And dove in, got a big kit just to give it my all. Started with, at the time, Jasper, my blind cat who had leukemia, and then Adora, who is now 6, a border collie, very enthusiastic about life. And so started kind of with those two as my primary learners, and haven't stopped in the last 5 years since then.
And one of the most impressive things to me is how many visually and audially, what is that word? Audily, auditorily, deaf and blind learners. One of the things that's been most amazing to me about your journey is how many deaf and blind learners you have taught. When you started, first of all, was there any sort of skepticism about what was possible? And then once you got over that skepticism, how did you conceptualize teaching a non-human that was deaf and or blind?
Yeah. Uh, Definitely was very skeptical at the start, but figured if there was a chance that my learners could communicate accurately, specifically, especially around pain, why not? But I didn't see the point in emotion buttons, especially, and also to my background, I have been a professional trainer and behavior consultant for over 18 years now. And so I was like, well, it's my job to read body language and translate emotion. They don't need a button for that. And also, that's fairly abstract. But things like outside or telling me that they're uncomfortable, requesting medication, like that feels a lot more tangible, concrete, and possible. So neglected to work on emotions, wasn't really concerned about that aspect initially. Do you want me to go into why my mind was changed around that? So when Adora came home from being spayed, added an ouch button at the time to help her recover, and had been working on narrating the concept of ouch or pain leading up to that. Anytime I was uncomfortable, anytime I noticed them uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, labeling that, narrating in the moment. So it gets used accurately for pain initially. And then as time goes on, and Adora begins to get frustrated, particularly if I'm not fulfilling a request fast enough, or if I'm telling her later instead of yes immediately, right? She's a working line border collie, so she's like, let's go, let's go. She began to use ouch for frustration, for emotional pain, not just physical pain. And when I think back to how I often feel when I'm narrating pain, I'm usually frustrated, especially if I'm dealing with chronic pain or a headache. Certainly, I'm uncomfortable, but I think overall I'm frustrated that I'm uncomfortable. And so I wonder if that is inadvertently some of what I wound up teaching. And because they didn't have another way to articulate it, and certainly, it was evident at times that she was frustrated, but she didn't have a way to narrate that the way she could narrate so many other things. She even, I mean, she loved to narrate settle as she was going to take a nap, or as she noticed other animals laying down or napping around the house. Like, she just had that desire to narrate. So looking back, I'm like, why on earth would I not have given her a way to articulate her emotions with the buttons as well? Even though I can read the body language, she desired that specificity. And for me, I'm not always looking right at her. And she can just cut through all of the distractions in the environment, right? And press a button and, oh, okay. I didn't realize you were mad. Let's do something about that. Let's work together. Let's solve this.
That's incredible. There's nothing like a non-human yelling at us in our own language to break us out of whatever distraction we're in and immediately give them our attention, which on one hand is quite anthropocentric, right? We shouldn't invite these little creatures into our home. And it's not really an invitation, it's a captivity thing. And then they need to demand our attention. But I think one of the reciprocal benefits of these systems is that it allows us to listen in a completely different way. I started paying attention to my dogs in ways that I couldn't have even conceptualized of before, because without Bunny having used the words night talk sleep, I wouldn't ever have started thinking about, could a dog maybe be interested in talking about dreams, right? So it gives us an opportunity to look at them in a different way and really watch them and think about what they might be thinking about, what they might be interested in smelling, in talking about, in listening to, and how experiences outside of our own sensory experience might appeal to them. That's one of my favorite things about these systems.
Yeah. And you mentioned smell, which, speaking of both deaf or blind learners, or even fully sighted learners and fully auditory learners, I find that utilizing scent in some capacity on the board can really help them feel more confident, more exploratory. And for those who don't have, all of the typical sensory inputs, that can help them navigate, in my opinion, a little bit more. And I really learned so much from Jasper, being fully blind, not having that input, and watching her navigate between buttons. I kept them pretty close together for her and added them more in chronological order so that she wouldn't have to be relearning and trying to figure things out. In contrast, Adora and both of my current cats, Cicada and Bernie, they all seem really energized by adjustments. I make sure that they're always present. I don't want it to be something they wake up from a nap, come over and be like, whoa, something has changed. That's frustrating potentially and stressful. So it's something that they have the opportunity to be present as I'm making an adjustment. I'm telling them about the change, I'm showing them, and I'm trying to do a slight adjustment at a time, or a whole hex tile at a time whenever I possibly can. And at this point, we've got kind of islands. So the smaller groupings, so then it's a little bit easier to make, maybe just adjust one island, or as my newer learners, Cicada is partially blind. She does have some visual input, but she doesn't use it to navigate, at least not. Yeah, it's very much by feel. It's fascinating just to watch how she interacts with the world, as opposed to Bernie, who very much with his one eye is getting plenty of visual input minus depth perception, but he's learned how to accommodate a lot there. And he has learned actually that he feels faster and more accurate by going up and flopping on the board. And he's very accurate with hitting with his elbow typically sometimes, and then he'll roll up to his shoulder. I think that just is a little bit easier for him, whether that's just personality, eyesight, whatever it may be. But even the fully sighted learners don't have great visual acuity. They're more geared towards distance and motion. That's what they evolved for typically, right? So supporting them with either, natural sense, nothing that's too overpowering, or like even essential oils, some of those can be dangerous potentially too. So I'm talking things like the outside button got rubbed in a patch of grass and then brought inside. And they watch me, I bring it out, press outside, narrate outside, rub it in the grass, and then we come in together outside, all done. I'm able to model all of these things while adding the scent. The mom button, it went in my pocket for half the day before going onto the board. And so with Jasper, I had added textures. So this is just like the furniture protector that would go on the bottom of a chair leg. It's got a little bit of like a rubber texture as well. I have ones that are only the felt, the soft side of Velcro I really like to use as well. And again, this can be for any learner of any ability, but they started off as kind of a kiddie braille system that I just made up for Jasper. But I noticed that she was really dipping her head and sniffing a lot in between buttons and navigating by scent, and especially her food related buttons. So this just looks like wet food to me. So this is the wet food button. I would watch her almost like not quite Pavlov herself, but she'd press the food button, start to drool, lick that, and take it and put it only on her food related buttons, that saliva, that like, and the affiliative, the greeting ones, is it like more the headbutt, the cheek rub? That's the more typically affiliative pheromones. Definitely double check with me on all of these things, because cats are not my expertise, but I'm fascinated by it. I love researching it. But I would watch Jasper do cheek rubs and headbutts on those more affiliative buttons, which makes me wonder, was she kind of helping scent mark on her own? So inspired by the lower or no vision learners, that's also kind of been expanded for even deaf learners as well. Adding those textures, we've seen where deaf-blind learners have, like a touch of Aston, they've taken the textures of like a snuffle mat and put that directly on top of a button. AstroTurf for outside, that's on top of another button, just so there's those different feels to help them know that they found the right one. Oh, Bernie.
Bernie's just coming and going. I love it.
What does
It's so
Bernie
fun.
want? What does Bernie want? Here we go. We got his signature. The elbow press on play there.
Oh,
Sad.
that's
I
so
did not
sweet.
realize that the camera wasn't on him. Hi, buddy. And pets. So many cats. Shout out to Julie Smith for being the first one to really point this out. So many cats really enjoy something affiliative like pets as part of their greeting ritual, to then go press buttons, where they press and then they want a little bit of love and then you to follow through. They don't always necessarily press a pet's button, though often he will. Yes, you want to play, Bernie. Let me get you a toy. He's like, these are perfect toys here. I did not think about that, bud. Let me grab your favorite toy here. So the favorite toy has to stay in the cabinet so it doesn't get chewed up.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
want to play. Yeah. Yeah, and so I can press not only the play button that Bernie pressed, but I can also press another play button over here, because when I began with the cats being new learners, I started Eat, Pets, and Play. It's really nice, general, fun concepts for me to get to know them and try to motivate them with the buttons. And then as I slowly integrated the board together, I left a few duplicates of the really high value options, because I have seen Bernie hiss a little bit around toys, be a bit guardy. He's guarded space,
Mm,
he's guarded food. My border collie Dora is a resource guarder as well, of all of the above. So having the buttons equal abundance and be a little bit
yeah.
more spread out like this has supported them sharing, and it's turned into almost like a collaborative approach. You can see it. They always, there's always more than one that wants attention here, right? I know you get that.
I do. I do. Yeah. That's brilliant actually for resource guarding homes having,
Yeah.
they'll say don't just have one ball if you're in a house where, your learner's resource guard have balls for everyone, so have play buttons
Mhm.
for everyone. That makes a lot of sense. I love that.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about your process,
Yeah.
and I'm really interested in hearing about the beginning. Like, what was sort of the aha moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I am in, this is working, this changes everything. I'd like to hear about some of those moments.
Yeah. Dora took to pressing pretty much immediately. They were fairly, simplistic requests initially, right? As they often start off being, and things that I could often tell she wanted with body language, right? I think it was the first time that she used her settle button, not just to narrate as she was going to settle or another animal or bedtime, but when I had my voice raised and was just, I was a little bit upset, and she just went over and pressed settle. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, okay. To be almost like called in by my dog in that way, being like, you are overstimulated, I am overstimulated now, like, let's just settle. So that's
Everyone
a
chill
good
out.
idea. Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah.
yeah. And then realizing, with Jasper initially starting off, just a lot of menu requests, food requests, that sort of thing, which is absolutely, perfectly valid, of course, however they want to use the board, whether it's just connection, attention seeking in that way. But I think the first time she really blew my mind might have been when I was just petting her absentmindedly and, stopped and scrolling my phone. It's probably on TikTok or something. And she walks over and presses pets, happy pets, and then comes back over and gives me a headbutt and rubs against me. And just like, again, that verbal or that auditory connection in that case, snapping me out of, just hi Bernie, getting sucked into all of the distractions in our environment and day-to-day life, right? More. Bernie want more play. Yes, yes, okay. Mom can play more, yes. Hi.
Adorable. That's
And then,
amazing.
yeah. So I mean, fairly, yeah, nothing too existential or anything initially, but then the first time Jasper came in from, she used to love, hanging out on the back patio and watching the birds and squirrels. And she came back in, and I had just finished stuffing all of the Kongs for the dogs. And she came in and starts air scenting immediately and walks over and presses smell, because I love sensory buttons in order to help them share, right, their experience and recognize that we have different sensory experiences. But she presses smell and then goes over and starts pressing soon, 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 soon. And he's like, smell soon. And realized I'm pretty certain, because I then added that she was referencing soon as before, a way to ask about what had just happened. Because I think she might have gone over and pressed
Oh,
or yeah, the or question mark button after that as well.
yeah.
Like, wait a second. And so added a before button. Others have done remember, some kind of past tense. And she seemed to use that several more times to seemingly ask about past tense, but it makes sense and is very smart with a limited vocabulary available to them to think about it and be like, okay, this is soon is just after, but what if it meant just prior as well?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't really narrated anything for her to, yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yes, more pets
More.
and play.
Aw. You've got two users using buttons as we speak.
Yes. Yeah, there's the belly rub
Oh.
requests happening here with Ash, and then
Oh my
Bernie
gosh.
capturing.
Oh my gosh. So sweet. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Jasper ended up being quite an existential communicator. Yeah. Would you care to tell us about some of those experiences and how they developed and what those were like and how it changed how you think about non-human cognition?
Yeah, just the depth in which she questioned things, her environment, our relationship, the
Mm.
way we almost like co-regulated. Like she'd go, press her food buttons, knowing that I'd get up and prep her food and then remember to feed myself often, kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Or occasionally water, like just I really feel like there was at times her looking out for me or pressing mom or, in conjunction with those buttons. And just the amount that she wanted to talk about smells, the figuring out the past tense. And then as I had to grieve the loss of Delilah, who, was 16 and a half, it was her time, but still devastating, right? She was my retired former service dog, heart dog, first dog, had been my demo dog all through training. We had, she had an amazing agility career with me. And, it was time to let her go with dignity. Yes, Ash is here. And so I literally, picked up the phone, made that phone call. I'm sobbing afterwards. And Jasper gets up and goes over and presses, love you, love you, love you. Hi, hi. Like just, and the hi to specifically get me, to focus on her and connect to, I just never in my wildest dreams imagined being verbally comforted by one of my learners, right? I mean, they bring us comfort in so many ways, but in that moment of just devastation, not noticing her trying to connect with me in other ways, because I look back at the video and like she's looking at
Mm.
me, and I think she had been trying to maybe rub across the front of, my hands as I'm just falling
Losing it.
apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like how I still get emotional thinking about it.
It's unbelievable. It's just so powerful. Those moments are so
Yeah,
powerful. Yeah. I mean, it's like there's this connection, obviously, that, a lot of people understand is there, and we don't necessarily understand why or how or can't put words on it. But there's something about this process that allows us to really um, sort of pinpoint its power. And I think that comes back to um, this sense of, yes, we're asking them to speak in a language that isn't theirs, but hearing some of those things allows us to listen in a way that's so outside of ourselves and so um, detached from how we normally listen as humans in the world, right? It really does allow us to go so much deeper into that relationship and explore what our companions are capable of and what they need and how they think and what they think about in ways that is totally novel. At least it was to me. I don't, as a
Yeah.
behavior consultant, I'm sure you were already thinking about a lot of this stuff before you had buttons, but for me, it just like broke this world wide open, you know?
Yeah. It really, even feeling like I was already giving, the animals we share our lives with more credit than most, I've still been blown away by what they're capable of and the conversations that we've had, what they've been able to communicate, how they've been able to advocate for themselves. Even just things as simple as like, I don't know, I feel like it was drilled into my head for so long. Like, don't repeat yourself. Like, you say the command once and they listen. And it's like, this is so opposite. Like,
Yeah.
narrate, repeat yourself, like,
Yeah.
label everything. Cause it used to be like, just say a few short words, and I feel like I was taught that animals hear us like Charlie Brown heard his teacher,
Wah,
right?
wah, wah,
Like,
wah, wah, wah,
yes.
wah, wah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was aside from a few things like their name, things that matter to them, like walk. Uh, aside from that, yeah, they're not a verbal species. Uh, but just because they don't have vocal cords doesn't mean they're not listening and understanding in so many ways.
Right. And there's, such a difference, obviously, between receptive and expressive language. And Chaser, the border collie, demonstrated that dogs can have an insane receptive language capacity, right?
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of words. And sure, I mean, Chaser was probably the exception, not the rule, but thousands of words, thousands. And so giving our learners, a method to facilitate a little bit of expressive language really can change the way we think about them and can change how they can advocate for themselves in a lot of ways. Like I never would have known. You mentioned the stranger paw video. I never would have known to look in her paw. She wasn't showing signs of pain. She wasn't limping. She wasn't like licking her paw. And so maybe it would have gotten worse, and I would have noticed eventually. But instead, she just went to her board and she said, "Mad, ouch, stranger paw," and then put her paw in my hand. And had she just put her paw in my hand, I would have been like, "Oh, that's so cute. You want to shake or hold hands, mer." But instead, I was able to,
Hmm.
feel between her toes and find the foxtail. I mean, it's just a level of specificity that not only do we not believe possible, but that has the potential to change our relationship and our animals' lives for the better, for sure. So, question for you. You've had so many learners and so much success with each of them. And obviously, all of these individuals have different personalities, different needs, different desires. Do each of them have favorite words or words that they use more than others? And what are some of those, and how do they align with their personalities and things that you observe?
Yeah. So I definitely try to build a board that all of my learners want to use that's interesting for them. Uh, Adora, that's ball and outside, uh, or anything kind of training related to, because she did begin combining like her training and smell buttons for nose work requests, that sort of thing. It's again the level of specificity. It's it's so cool. Uh, with Bernie, he loves the Bernie button to announce himself, but he's also just a chatty boy. So he's trilling as he walks into the room. He's chirping before he jumps on the counter. He's very predictable. And I love that the buttons have not diminished his chattiness in that way at all. If anything, he's like, I'm going to chirp that I'm coming in the room and lay on the Bernie button and be like, hello, world. I love you. I'm here. Like that. So that fits him and his personality so well. Uh, but what really unlocked his desire to press was the outside button. He loves going outside. He does
Mhm.
need to be supervised. I do not let him have free rein, but we've worked up to the point, and we're lucky enough to live in an area where I can give him off leash, free roam access with supervision. So at yeah, I was able to commit for a week. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna give him an outside button. And for a week, every time he presses it, I'm just gonna say yes. And we're gonna follow through, even though I know I'm committing to like pretty much an hour excursion each time. And after that, he was all in. He's like, yes. And so now he loves the creek button to let me know that he wants to go to the creek specifically to walk along the edge there, as opposed to when he wants, just a woods walk. Or so it's all very specific adventure buttons for him now. Play as well, as you heard. He's just an active, very active boy. Katie's all about the food. She took to that eat button immediately after introducing it. And, if I'm being completely honest, food buttons are a bit less exciting to me, right? Obviously, we want to honor all of their presses. They're opting in, it's all amazing. But I know that she wants to eat. I would feed her regardless, right? So it's less exciting, let's say. But for her, because that's what she was interested in, I was able to add that kibble button, specifically wet food. We already had the training button, the puzzle button for any kind of food dispensing option. And Jasper was who taught me, really, that because that's what she took to, were those food specific buttons. But with Katie, then I realized she's trying to steal the pumpkin out of the dog food bowls all the time when I'm prepping their meals. She's, trying to nudge me out of the way as I'm spooning it in. You're trying to eat out of the can. So I add a pumpkin button for her, and she loves it. She lets me know, exactly what she wants. She then begins combining wet food and water to request broth. Or excuse me, it sounds like it would be broth. That's what I assumed. I kept trying to make broth for her, and she's like, that is not what I want. It was her freeze-dried food with water in it. That is wet
Ah,
food water. So now
ah.
she has a freeze-dried button so that she can tell me that specifically, instead of having to combine. But point being, if I had just dismissed it and been like, all right, you got your eat button, I get it, you like to eat. If I had just left it at that, instead of exploring that specificity, right? Giving her the ability to tell me exactly what she wants when she wants it, that's how she got to a unique combo. And she got to combining buttons to mean something else. I want to say it was within 6 months, which they're all individuals, but that feels fairly quick to me, on average. And I think it's because I leaned into what she cared about, right?
Hmm.
If I had built
Yeah.
out the board that I wanted, or just left it at what Adora had already been interested in, I don't think we would have gotten to that point quite as quickly. So yeah, it's been fun trying to unlock each of their individual desires. For Ash, it's food too, that puzzle button.
I love that. I mean, I've said this before, but if someone were to build a button board for me and they were to put the words bro and moist on the board, I would never use them, right? So it's so important, just like you said, for us to be really listening to them and allowing our learners to be guiding the choices that we make when we're picking buttons for the board, because it's not for us. We already have all these words, right? We already have our receptive and expressive language. And the only way that we end up with learners that are interested and engaged and opting into a system like this is if, what was that?
Ash says training.
Training? Aw,
Hi. Oh, I know that was an oops when you turned around. Did you
so
want some
cute.
training and some belly rubs? We can do some
Oh,
training
training and
later. Let's
belly
do just some
rubs.
belly rubs for now. That way we don't get to go into a whole training session.
That's
We'll do
hilarious.
that soon, buddy.
Yeah, but I mean, that illustrates my point that the only way that we get an engaged learner who is opting in consistently and regularly is by selecting words that are salient to them, that matter to them, not to
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
So I love that point that you made. I am curious, what have been some of your biggest hurdles, biggest challenges? And I know that those can vary quite a lot depending on the learner, and you've had so many. So I would love to hear what some of yours have been.
Honestly, I think it's just working on the boundaries. uh,
Oh, yeah.
Working on, yeah, them being patient. Um, we, yeah, lovingly call it spamming sometimes, right? When they're just like, or they don't want to take no for an answer. They're like, you taught me how to use these. Why aren't you saying yes to this press? And so really trying to intentionally say yes to something else, give them an alternative. Uh, but yeah, I think I underestimated the amount of value and persistence that the board would have for them, which I mean, that's a great thing though, right? That they know how to use and they're like, I want my voice to be heard. Let's go. And even it's I don't think I would have realized how I guess how much my cats want me around. Like, I guess I still harbored some of those old school, like, oh, you can leave a cat, 8 to 12 hours, no problem. Like, I'm
They're
not talking like the
independent.
days, right? But like, yeah, the
Yeah.
independence. Ash will happily nap for, 6 hours, no problem. Um, but Bernie has really showed me through his button use, and it's been hard, at times to get those connect alerts when I'm gone of him just being like, Mom, hi, 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 hi. Um, or pets or pressing the mom, yeah, that mom button again.
And so for people who don't know what Connect is, so the Connect is a system that's Bluetooth enabled. So the buttons are connected to Bluetooth. So you get push notifications to your phone if your learners push a button when you're not home. So for example, Morgan and I were at a conference together and she was getting texts from her learners saying, Mom, hi, want mom, things like that. And yeah, it's heartbreaking, but it's also super sweet. And it's a testament to the relationship that you've built
Yeah.
through, active engagement and through the system. But yeah, I can imagine that that's gut wrenching.
Yeah. Still
Absolutely.
obviously totally worth it and better for them, I feel like, to be able to express it, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah, I had not, I guess, realized the emotional gut punches or comfort as well, like that Jasper was
Yeah.
able to give me. But
Yeah.
yeah, just I guess the depth of that relationship or it changing in that way with the
Hmm.
addition of verbals. Obviously, like we've all looked into the eyes of our learner and, deeply felt that love and felt it reciprocated. But there is something different about, yeah, hearing them call out for you by name, uh, or say love you or press love you, it's different.
It's different. I mean, it's unexpected, right? And language is how, I mean, it's how we build all of our relationships as humans, right? So there's always been this sort of barrier, although we have been, we've co evolved, dogs and humans have co evolved for whatever it is, 40,000 years, for our ability to communicate and cooperate together. It's just like the next level of co evolution, it feels like, really being
Yeah.
able to have um, the specificity, back to the specificity of needs and wants, enabling our non-human companions to have more choice, agency, and control, and to dictate a little bit more as captive animals how they want to spend their day, which just allows us to really partner with them more so than be in the relationship of sort of owner and pet, you know.
Yeah.
Love it. So tell us a little bit about how you organize your board, how you decide when to add new words.
Yeah. Um, at this point, we've slowed down the speed that we're adding, just because there's a lot of ground covered at this point. Occasionally, things will come up. They'll show a need, like or a desire, like Katie with her pumpkin button. We're trying to steal the pumpkin. Uh, Bernie, when he was just very almost obsessively trying to scratch all of the furniture around, just giving him a scratch button so he could express that. And then, I'll rearrange the scratching post or add catnip to the scratching post or bring him cardboard, just for him to articulate that need in a way that isn't, digging his claws into something like the foam of the textile. um, yeah, so it's really, and this is part of why it's so important to me too, to, still honor and listen to all of their body language. A, that's their natural inclination, but B, if they really are adamantly trying to show you something, or if they press a button to connect with you, right, to get your attention and then show you something else, that to me at this point is usually them communicating, all right, it would be helpful to have a button for this. Or if it's something really specific or that body language alone would be a challenge. I never thought I'd be one of these people, but I have a stroller now for my animals. And one of my cat, Cicada loves going places in the stroller. So we have
Oh,
a stroller button
goodness.
because how else would, right? Like it's not like I have the stroller set up all the time. Like it's in a closet. So this way she can press stroller if she wants that specific type of adventure. So
Oh, it's
just,
so great.
yeah, like things
Yeah.
like that, uh, so yeah, if it's specific, if there's a need or an interest, of course, and they're categorized kind of loosely grouped. And I try to put relevant things together or things that work conversationally together. So all the food options are, in a similar spot here. Ash on the board
Oh.
here. And they're to us, closest in here to the kitchen. So because our board is so
Hmm.
large and spread out, food right here, closest to the kitchen, and I can gradually expand a little bit there. And our board is a bit more spaced out than typical, especially typical for cats because of Bernie being a flopper. That takes a little bit
Hmm.
more space, and it's shared with dogs, and Adora in particular is a drive-by presser, which I think from Tenrec. But with her being so physical and pacey, processy, movement oriented with the board, I wanted her to be able to have a good flow. And when
Yeah.
they were two together, you could see her getting frustrated. She would fling them out. And
Mm.
when I spaced them out more, she no longer was, pulling them out of the hextile, flinging them across the room
Oh,
kind
that's
of thing.
fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. It was almost akin at times to her like trying to herd because she'd pull certain ones out and like put like the location ones over by the front door at our previous home. She'd like fling them out very intentionally. And that was the other way that I sort of started to recognize there's got to be a scent component here because they would be upside
Yeah.
down, flung all over, like in a pile together, no rhyme or reason. And she'd do a quick sniff and press outside, upside down, and then go to the door. Like, how
Oh,
did you know
amazing.
that
That's
one was
so cool.
outside, right?
That's so cool.
So I suspect, yeah, that there's some component there. Um, Speaking of, so it's going to be a little ways away on our large board here, but our adventure, outdoor related ones are all right here by the back door. So that way it's kind of natural flow. And then in the
Yeah.
center, we've got more abstract concepts here because this is the last island that I've been working on. Hello, Ash. The last island. Happy pets, love you. This is kind of the more advanced emotion, uh, sensory time concept island.
Hmm.
So I was able to start with the mini, oops, unless you're mad I'm not petting you, which might be the case. Hi, Happy. So started with the cat board, over here, and then I've kind of gradually been teaching them an island as we go. We've got the yoga mat underneath, so there's lots of traction. They can
Mm.
approach from multiple angles at speed too, in Adora's case. to really
Yeah.
support them using the board the way they want to use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all the people right here and things like work and play are, hi buddy, you're just looking for attention now. Work and play are on the same hex tile, kind of contrasted with each other, so that, you know, when I unfortunately have to work and can't just be playing with them, you know, I could be modeling that right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a little bit
I
of
love it.
contrast. But it's been, you know, readjusting to to get things to flow slowly but surely here, just making small adjustments to support them. Hi,
Yeah.
buddy.
This is so sweet. So what have reactions been like from your friends, family, clients, strangers?
Yeah, it a lot of often surprise, but then at the same time, I think because they've seen the level of relationship and other like sorts of skill training or advanced concept training that I've done, that they're just like, okay, all right. Like there's been less skepticism than I would have expected.
Mm.
I don't know if because being in the animal world professionally, like I've already selected out anybody who
Yeah.
doesn't see animals as their own people, right?
Yeah,
As their
yeah.
own unique individuals. So it thankfully, amazingly, I've been very supported. Yes, more. It's a lot of just people coming in and being fascinated, wanting to see it, asking how to do it with their learners. Um, so I feel really blessed in that regard that I haven't been up against folks, and thanks to people like you blazing the trail, getting the info out there. I feel like a lot of folks are at least familiar with the concept too, which makes it easier now, right? As opposed to 6 years ago, we were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, yeah. Say what? Dogs don't know words.
Right.
Do you have clients now coming to you asking specifically for help teaching their own dogs and cats how to use buttons? That's
Yeah,
cool. That's
yeah,
very cool.
which is a lot of fun. It's mostly virtual, and then teaching
Yeah.
with FluentPet, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but the in
For
person is a lot of fun too.
for anyone who's watching this and doesn't know, Morgan heads our button boot camps, which are free after purchase, and you can also join them, I think, for free without purchasing, right? Just to get a taste.
If I think you just need to join the Fluent Pet community and you should have
Yeah,
access.
yeah, and it's the perfect place to start. A wonderful group of people, amazing questions, um, great sort of here's A, B, C, D ways to get you rolling and out the door in like 45 minutes. Great place to start. So just a couple more questions for you. Oh, don't stop, never stop,
I know.
mom. So what would be sort of your top tip for somebody who's interested in getting started with buttons?
The the biggest thing, and it sounds kind of counterintuitive, is just try not to have too many expectations, too much pressure on the learner. Go into it just curious, open-minded to figure out what kind of presser your learner is going to be, what's interesting to them. And I always remind people, you know your learner, you know your household best, you're the expert on them, right? So go with your gut. Think about what's interesting to them. As long as you're having fun together, you're on the right track. It's when we turn it into a drill or a like, you must press this before this next thing can happen.
Mhm.
And our learners, they've had a routine with us, or they've already told us with body language, and suddenly we're like, nope, you got to do this extra step now. That doesn't lead to that intrinsic motivation, right? And that desire to use the buttons and communicate specifically. So you know, keeping it, and I think you say this often, right? A two-way street, we're listening to them all the time, all of the ways that they're communicating. So that's where, yeah, really it's just showing them the opportunities that the board can present to them instead of teaching them. It sounds silly, but like instead of teaching them to use the buttons, just show them how and that they can and let them choose.
I
And
love
so,
that.
yeah, by taking the pressure off a little bit, I think people get much better results.
Yeah, I agree. I love that so much. Amazing. Okay, last but not least, um, wait, why is my thumb going up? I did not put my thumb up. I did not put my thumb up. Um, what is your most controversial take on behavior training or buttons?
So my most controversial take, less is more, truly. Let's not drill things when I'm working on training or behavior. It's, always welfare first, of course, but it's how can we work together so that you can have more freedom in your day-to-day life, right? We're training for freedom, for adventures. My number one goal when a new learner comes to me is just not only getting to know them, but how can I get you off leash access, time in nature, just time to be yourself, to be physically present and as regulated as possible. And then we'll build everything else from that foundation. So it's so rare that I do any training drills. It's rare that I'm doing anything like teaching a sit or a down. It's more so just, yeah, regulation, but like self-regulation, focus, body awareness, confidence, relationship building, that sort of thing is far more important. But yeah, people think of training and I thought of training 18 years ago when I started, right? Of just, manners, it's, sit
Yeah.
and stay and
Obedience,
down and
sit down,
come. And yeah,
come.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And of course we want safety, but we're building all of those skills through relationship
Yeah.
and getting their buy-in too, right? That's Yeah, I don't know how controversial that is. I know you don't find that controversial, but
To me, not at all. But I know that some
thank
people will probably find it a little bit controversial. I can't imagine why, but I love it. Um, yeah, I think that's the whole ethos of what we're doing here with buttons is about relationship and giving our learners more choice, agency, control, freedom, and relationship. So yeah, I love it. I love every word of that. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been such a great conversation. I love everything you do, and I love chatting with you always. And I'm always so thrilled to hear your stories and your process with all your different learners over time. It's really just been such a wild and fun, amazing journey to follow.
you so much. Back at you. I had a blast. Always great to catch up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Subscribe.